Today we are going to dive into the concept of definiteness of purpose, which is the first principle of success by Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich. So we're going to kind of have a dialogue, a little deep dive discussion to talk about purpose and why we are in agreement that it's, the first principle of success, first of all, and, how we incorporate it into our lives and into our business.
The greater the goal, the greater the purpose you have for your life, the more responsibility you have to be willing to assume. Mm-hmm. And this is a big piece of it, because a lot of people want to avoid the responsibility. They want the rewards, they want the financial freedom, they want all these things, but the responsibility that goes into it is what they don't want. I don't want that responsibility.
Welcome back to the Always Level Up podcast. I'm here co-hosting with my husband, Carlos Garcia. My name is Tracy Garcia. Today, we are going to dive into the concept of definiteness of purpose, which is the first principle of success by Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich. So we're going to kind of have a dialogue, a little deep dive discussion to talk about purpose and why we feel or why we are in agreement that it's the first principle of success, first of all, and how we incorporate it into our lives and into our business. So, hi, welcome.
Thanks for joining us. So where do we want to begin? What does purpose mean to you?
See, I thought I was asking the questions. Now you're asking the questions. What is purpose? Purpose, to me, I feel like there's this misconception that purpose is supposed to be like this major, like groundbreaking, single life goal, right? Mm-hmm. But what I've experienced is that it shifts, and really. Where you are in life, what season you're in life, your purpose might shift. But I think with those shifts, it does end up aligning you and anchoring you to kind of what that gift is that, that God has placed in all of us, right? And it's like this, some people are like, oh, well, my purpose is to be a good mom, or my purpose is to, reach, help 1 million people or whatever it is. And however they frame that, there's going to be all these different things as you walk this path to like discovering what it is that either align you on that path to what you discover the purpose is, or take you away from that path. And I think the most important thing when we think about purpose and to not be discouraged if, it's something that's hard for you, that you haven't come up with it yet. No, I'm already this age. I don't know what my purpose is. It's not for you to get stuck on it, but it is for you to discover what it is. And I feel like, when we think about it that way, and that we're doing these things that are aligning us to, or some things are distracting us from what the purpose are, what our purpose is. Then there's just a little bit more enjoyment and fulfillment along the way when you're not just like focused on, I need to figure out what the purpose is. It's like, discovering what that purpose is along the way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I think of purpose, it's to me, it's a bunch of different things, right? Like, sometimes our purpose is to travel, right? Some of the things that we want to use our financial resources for, right? Shelter could be purpose, right? You need a place to live, So, but then there's that big purpose of what am I going to do with my life, and why am I here, and what kind of work do I want to do, like how am I going to make the best out of this time that I'm here on this earth? And the thing about not knowing the purpose is it allows us to drift, right? So, I think back to when I started, before I even started college and I graduated high school, I didn't know what my purpose was. And so I started drifting, and I drifted into negative influences, right? And then I lacked certain skills and self-control and, certain things that helped me find my purpose. So I drifted in a very bad direction that like wasn't, what I wanted. So what I learned from that was like, well, I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
I know what I don't want out of this life. So let me figure out, well, before I even figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, is like, how do I add value to myself?
Yeah.
And then from there, going to college helped me start to discover, my purpose, right? So, at that age, it was, okay, well, I have a purpose to take care of my children, that was the first and foremost. Well, how do I do that? What do I got to do? And how can I provide them a life that gives them a chance to actually become, productive, men and women when they grew up. So that was part of like, the journey and discovery, right? And it was through college that I was able to discover, okay, well, real estate seems like a good place for me. Business seems like a good place for me. I got an entrepreneur mindset. I have a sales mindset, you know. Okay, maybe I need to be selling something that, provides some kind of value, something that I believe in, right? A product, a service that I can believe in that makes a difference in this world. So, that's where I started, moving towards, figuring out, what my purpose is for the long haul.
No, I love that because it is, like I said, it's the discovery of it, right? And you started off with like, okay, how can I be a good provider for my children? Like, how can I be a good role model to them? And then you take that action to figuring that out, and you put yourself in school and you surround yourself with, more productive people. And then that opens up your mind to something else, right? And it really is, and we talk about this all the time, it is the action that's behind it, right? And then as we take action, these things become revealed to us, right? The path becomes revealed,
right?
As we move on a path. And so really it is kind of like, well, how do I like, you first started with that question, okay, well, what can I do? I know I'm on a path that's probably not getting me to where I want to be.
Right.
So now let me have some like clarity about, okay, where is it that I want to be? What is that? What is a goal, right? And maybe we can start with a goal. Some people interchange goal and purpose, I think, which is okay. But again, I think purpose is beyond what that goal is. But having a goal is actually going to provide the clarity that you need to figure out what the purpose is. Having a vision, right? Having that vision of like, well, who do I want to be? Who do I do? What kind of house do I want to have? And like being able to kind of dig a little bit deep within yourself to see like what are the things that I want out of life, and what does the person do that gets those types of things, and kind of move along that path.
Yeah, right on. And so in Napoleon Hill's book, Think Your Way to Wealth, he talks about having a definite major plan, for your life, and also the attainment, right? Like what is it gonna take to get there? What do I have to do to achieve, X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. So, I think initially you don't find your major life purpose. I think you find a smaller purpose, which is like you start to hit these certain milestones, right? So I remember back, okay, my purpose was to be not only a good college student, but an exceptional college student. I wanted to graduate with honors. I want to have, these certain academic achievements, because I felt like that was going to be a reflection of, my ability to learn and perform at a high level in school, which I'd never done before. So as I started working with that purpose, I changed.
Yeah.
And I changed, and it allowed me to become a better person coming out of college. Somebody that's I felt was way more valuable than I was when I started. And then it was like, okay, well, after I graduated, now what's next? Let me find my purpose in work. And I had this idea of real estate. I was like, okay, well, I can do real estate. Well, how? I wanted to be a developer. I wanted to be I have these audacious goals,
Yeah.
right? I want to be a big master developer. I was like, well, how are you going to get there? What does that look like? I was
You're like, I can't just graduate and become a developer.
yeah, that doesn't work that way. It's like, you have to get some kind of experience. You have to build a reputation. You have to, kind of have your achievements along the way. That's going to open up the door. You network. You have to grow your network. People don't just say, hey, you be a developer and here's
a bunch of money.
Here's $1 billion to go build something, right? Like, no, it's not going to work that way. So it started off with, little footsteps and figuring out, okay, well, real estate sales is a good place, and selling investment real estate, I get behind that. And all right, cool, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. And I that was something I could actually see myself doing for 5 years, right? Yep. 10 years. I was like, okay. So that commitment to it gave me purpose for work. And, I was able to, I had a plan, right?
Yeah.
I had a plan how I was going to advance myself in that space. And within the company I was working with, I was like, okay, just be the top producer. Be the top producer. If you're the top producer,
yeah,
people love the top producer, right?
Yeah.
Value goes up.
And, sometimes, I think back to, right, you said, okay, well, how can I be a developer? And that is where that vision of that is really clear. Like you can read about how you do it. You can read about how other people who are developers have done it. It's like you're not reinventing a wheel, right? Mm-hmm. So it does provide this like a little bit of clarity around like the vision, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to be a developer. What can I do to like put myself on that path? Okay, I'm going to go into real estate. I'm going to get my real estate license. Okay, where can I dive into? And then you kind of get, you start with the investment real estate space and wholesaling and things like that. And that's not quite developing, but they're stepping stones that are still related. But, what happens is we end up spending a little bit of time there and like absorbing all that we can. And God sometimes keeps us in certain seasons for a while to learn and to make connections and to do whatever else is needed for that next chapter. Or sometimes he cuts that, he closes that door and says, okay, well, it's time for you to move on and do something else. It's
time for change.
Right, because...
Remember that dream you had.
Remember, right? Remember the developer. Like, what else besides getting stuck in this, this little corner of the bigger picture that you're in? Like, we got to still build on that path, right? And so what else can you do, right? And then that's when we have to... Not necessarily it's a pivot, but it's just awareness around, okay, I spent a little time here. And usually, they say that threshold is like 5 years, 10 years before you become like a real master at it.
Yeah, it's about 10 years and 10,000 hours of application.
Yeah. Usually, and I have experience too, where it's like 5 years in that same position where you become like, not necessarily complacent, but you can probably do a lot of the work without a lot of effort.
Yeah, you're ready for something else.
Where you're kind of ready for that next thing, and just having that awareness around like, okay, well, what is the next thing? Right. What else can I learn that's going to get me even closer to that grand purpose, that grand vision that I initially had for myself. So, the Napoleon Hill says it's the definiteness of purpose is the starting point, right, for all achievements. That's where it begins. It has to start with a clear vision. And again, being fluid with it. It's not just step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order, right? It's like, okay, let me move and take action and then ask myself questions and discover and rediscover and figure things out. Like, that's how you get there.
And speaking of, it not being a clear shot to the top, How have you been able to, work through finding, your purpose from, college grad to motherhood to professional, like the whole thing?
I was somebody that, I talked about at the beginning where you get stuck on like, okay, what is this like my major like thing that I'm supposed to accomplish in life? And, I got caught up in that for a while. And I'm like, well, I don't know my purpose. I have a lot of different things that I want to do. I know I want to be a good mom, but also, I think back to the younger version of myself before I had, 7 children to raise, which was not in the plans. Never thought that was part of my purpose. But my purpose is to be a strong pillar in my family. And how do I do those things? Or how do I do that? How do I be that person? And especially became more of a priority or more true for me when I had my daughter, my first daughter. Now that I have two daughters, it's like I've got to be a woman who has these types of values so that my daughters can emulate them. You know, not so much. Yes, as a boy mom, I still had instill like, you know, respect for women and that with them, but even more so when I had the daughters. So that became, you know, I always had ambition to have like a successful career, and I wanted to be a career woman and by any means like work my way up to the top. Again, entrepreneurship was not in the cards for me, but apparently it is. And all the things like, you know, I became a stay-at-home mom, and then I had a new purpose. Like what, you know, how can I create a space in my home where everyone can thrive, including myself, right? Because I kind of left myself out of it. But when I brought myself back into it, I started feeling a little bit more fulfilled. And you know, I still had I had like a refreshed way to kind of look at, okay, what are my goals? Yes, I maybe can't do all the things that I initially thought I wanted to do as a mom of many.
Yeah.
Where my time was not always my own. So, you know, working C-suite, 60-hour, 70-hour position, you know, a career with that type of demand wasn't really in my cards. So I had to rethink and say, okay, like how can I redo this?
Well,
right?
you went through that experience where you were working, you know, you're 60 hours a week at least.
Yeah, weekends, evenings, events. I was on and I loved it. But at the expense, you know, I was not willing to, you know, kind of tune out some of the other priorities. You know, I didn't want to. I was missing a lot of my kids' events as they were getting older. I wanted to rely less on my village of help, which was was my mom and my grandma at the time, who helped me a lot with my kids when I was building my career. And then after my third baby, it was like, okay, I really got to like let me step back and see, okay, what can I do?
Right.
And I can still do the things, and I think I can still feel success, right? And that's a lot of what happens. Like our definition of success like shifts and it changes, and it was no longer like having a corner office and you know, a 6-figure salary, although, you know, I still, you know, want a big salary.
Yeah, we got a corner office.
But it has to look different, and being okay with it looking different, and how else can I reach that same goal or get to that same vision that I had for my life, which was a healthy family life, children who loved me and wanted to spend time with me, a husband who I had a connection with. Like those are the ultimate things that I was trying to get to, that vision. And I thought it was only through a 6-figure, you know, career of me like working my way up to the top. But having stepped back and really like connecting with myself and getting clarity on what a vision was by continuing to take action and work on myself and still be a person who, hey, if I went and applied for a job, would I hire myself? You know, like, am I still building skills for myself where I'm still like a marketable person in whatever field it's in? So doing the work on myself and continuing to, you know, build relationships with my family and create, you know, some normalcy and stability in those relationships that were most close to me. We're still in alignment with that big vision, still in alignment with that purpose, right? But there's just, again, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it might be 1, 7, 2, 8, 9. You know what I mean? Like you jump around,
you step
but
up, you step back down,
but you
side
end up,
step.
Right, exactly. So I don't know if did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you definitely did, and I think that's because, like you said, it's not a direct path, and there's been these times of, you know, reflection where you had to say, well, what's my priority right now? And the purpose of, you know, being a mother that was present, because you know how important it is to lead your family, your children in the right direction. And we see a lot that happens with children that, you know, have the absent parents. Even if the parents are successful financially, if they're not there to raise their children, well, who's raising them? Who's teaching them the values?
Yeah.
You know, and that's why, you know, it's really important to have that understanding, especially being a wife and a mom. and it's a short-term sacrifice for, you know, a professional career, but it's worth it because of the value that it adds to your children, and you know, and then as a mother to have that connection to where your children, you know, they love you, they love to spend time with you. I mean, probably too much, right? There's a touch at your hip, but you know, a lot of people want that, and they listen to you, right? And I think that's really, you know, what's important, because they're only young for so long before they grow up, and then we're back to, all right, so what is it that I'm going to do again?
I got time now. Let's see. Let me try to run a business with my husband, which again, you know, that there is a purpose in our business. The reason why, you know, you've been in the real estate space and still have a desire and vision of becoming a developer in some fashion or form. But there was a space where you know, you had to make a choice and step out into seeing what's next. That was still in alignment with, you know, the real estate dreams that you have for yourself. But, you know, and I've asked you this question, like, why did you want to start a business? You were doing, you know, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur and it's hard. You're over there, you know, you have a little bit more security in the space that you're in. Of course, it's you know, it's always kind of like a false security, right? We feel a little bit more secure.
It's secure until it's not.
But, you know, I backed you up, and I knew that it was time for you to try something else. You know, you had, I think it was, you're past your 10-year.
Yeah, definitely a 12-year mark. But, you know, it's one of the drives for me has been, you know, having just big goals, and a lot of it is for a level of security. But, you know, as time has progressed, I'm like, man, well, there's more to this, and you know, I can actually have an impact. I can actually, you know, have an impact on communities, on people's lives in a positive way, and not just, you know, with the products and the services that I sell, but also with the people that I engage with, the people that I coach, and then also being able to work with you and being able to, you know, use your skills, leverage your skills that you've acquired, because not only, again, we've talked about this before, you know, you're a college grad, you have your master's in communication, you know, you have marketing skills, you have design skills. There's a lot of skills that you have that make you very marketable. I'm like, man, I got this big ticket potential employee that I could leverage, and I might as well be a fool for me not to, because I just know what you've done, and I saw value in it, and together, you know, we've accomplished so much, you know, from the beginning, and overcome so much, so many of the adversity. So I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna do it with anybody, you know,
hire me.
Come on, you're on. Let's go. And thank you for following the vision, and you know, seeing, you know, how it's coming together. But
how would you describe the purpose for Level Up Realty?
Well, so my main thing has been to be a source for investment real estate, for the investors that I work with. And, you know, I love being able to provide them with the best opportunities in town. And not only that, it's being somebody that they can trust, right? Being someone that's genuine, that's you know, they know that not only will I get the job done, but I will go the extra mile to help them succeed and help their business succeed. And also working with sellers who, you know, own these properties. And again, they're people that can easily be taken advantage of. And, you know, being a good source of direction, whether I can help them, whether my sources are the right resources for them, or if they need somebody else, I can point them in the right direction. So I find a lot of value in being that kind of person for other people. Yeah. And I think by operating that way and not chasing how much money I'm going to make, but more how many people I can help and help them achieve their goals, and that right there is what becomes beneficial to the company and the organization. And it's also being able to build a brand that is completely different from any other company that's out there. You know, we put God first in our business, and by doing that, you know, I met people that said, "Man, I've never worked for a company like that.
Yeah.
Like it's different." But I feel like that's allowing me to do God's work while I'm doing the work that, you know, is for, you know, the communities out here, but it's keeping God in the middle because it's blessed, right?
Yeah.
So my actions are guided with values, and you know, my decisions are guided by values, doing the right thing, and even if it doesn't benefit me, like I want to provide a company that's going to be different in that light, to where people like, they love it, they respect it, and you may not like it, but you ain't gonna have nothing bad to say.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's one of the things too that really attracted me to, you know, helping build the business is the branding aspect of it, and being able to like you said, to deliver, you know, these core values that we have. And that was one of our first exercises that we did as a team when I came on, is like, okay, well, who are we as a company? You know, and I needed something that I can get behind, because truth be told, real estate is not my, you know, my favorite cup of tea, but I love the space of real estate. I love the design, the flipping, the value that's in like transforming homes and creating a product that people can fall in love with. I'm not more of like the numbers person and the sales side of it. I do also enjoy when we do connect with sellers and being able, like you said, to provide them with options that can help them maybe get out of a tough spot. And again, if it's not us as a resource, then we can point them in the right direction. But being known as a company, as a brand who is, their faith is very loud, and who is a go-to, like trustworthy group, like the people that we hire, the people that we work with, the you know, the partnerships that we create are built on core values that we've developed, because we really stand on them, and it really allows us to stay motivated when things get hard. It's like, it's not just about closing the next deal, right? It's about helping the next family. It's about hiring agents where they can build a career for themselves, and it's going to change their lives. Those are the things that that drive me for the purpose of building this business and this brand.
Right on. And you know, another added benefit is the people that we work with, the people that are our teammates, you know, and being able to contribute to them values that will help improve their lives. You know, one of the biggest things for me is having a disciplined mindset, right? A disciplined mindset is probably the cornerstone of, you know, executing your plan, of purpose, right? And, you know, because you're going to have to do a lot of hard things. You're going to have to endure some challenges. You're going to have to endure some setbacks. And when things are looking good and they're not as good as they seem, and then there's a setback, then you got to go back and keep pushing forward. So, you know, being able to coach, you know, our teammates up and say, well, hey, here's this part of the process we're going to go through. We're doing it together. And we find success as we continue to, you know, persevere and push through the adversity, and then the rewards will come. And but as long as we stay focused on you know, ourselves and being better people, then we're going to provide better value to the people that we work with. And again, that just comes back to building trust.
Yeah.
Right? Because trust is the main ingredient to earning someone's business.
Yeah. I mean, trust is the main ingredient for building a successful brand. That's for sure. And we do this in our daily actions as a business. You know, we start with devotionals in our morning meetings. We end the week with gratitude. You're very clear on exercise and how you feel about that, and it's something that, you know, our agents pick up on too. They're going to the gym and they're changing their lifestyle to be more healthy and just have that self-discipline to not just, you know, do more deals, but to just be healthier and be better people. And, you know, leading by example is I think that adds to the credibility, because we're not just like, okay, well, you gotta do this, and we're not doing it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
we do it, and they see that we do it, and so when they're not doing it, and it's easier to call someone out on something when you're already leading by example. So, of course, in a loving way, calling them out.
Absolutely. Well, and we call that accountability, right? There's accountability to it, and what I've learned is that we need somebody to answer to, and I need somebody to answer to, and it doesn't matter who you are. Don't ever feel like you're too big to have somebody hold you accountable, because that's when we're liable to make bigger mistakes, right? Costly mistakes, and so we have that accountability culture that allows us, hey, hold me accountable. Yeah, call me out if I'm not living up to it, and to whatever standards we have, because I'll get myself in check, because I just know, like, it's easy to slip up. It's easy to kind of let things go, and one day, okay,
I'll do
cool.
it later,
and the next day, okay, again, now it's becoming habit, and we have to be on top of that, because we really got to think about, again, what's our purpose, and what are our goals, and where are we going, and that's a long road that we have to go down. So, which is going to require us to be able to like undergo like certain environments, certain seasons, right? Some seasons are going to be great, some seasons are not going to be great, and can we get through it and come out the other end better than we were when we went through it, right? And the answer, well, if we stick to these disciplines and these values, then we will, and we'll achieve our goal. And that's the most important thing, because having a culture where we don't have values and we're just focused on profits, what does that do to the people? And how does that impact their lifestyles? Man,
you don't even want to think about that.
I don't want you to be rich and unhealthy. Like, man, then you're just paying to take care of your health. I want you to be rich and healthy.
Yeah.
And making a difference and making wise decisions with your money, and not doing anything else that's gonna hurt the work that you put into. You want to be able to add value to the work that you put into, because on this other end, you're such a better person, and
now you know how to spend your money, and you're not throwing it away on things that don't matter. Or it's that clear purpose, and we talked about earlier how we can break those down into like smaller purposes, and I think about how we do that as a company. We start each week with what is our goal for the week, right? And then midweek, do we do a check-in? Are we on pace? Are we on track? What is the roadblock? How can we get around it? And then on Fridays, did we hit the goal? Did we hit the purpose that we had for this week? Even today, we talked about what is that one thing? What is the one thing that you're going to focus on today that's going to allow you to get there to that goal that you set for yourself at the beginning of the week, right? Like, we're holding each other accountable. So it's like, okay, let's remove all the excuses. Let's remove anything, and let's just focus on the solutions.
Right.
How can we get you there, right? Because then it builds on, if Frankie says that he wants to, make the 5 or 10 offers a day. At the end of the week, he should have like 2 to 3 deals. Like, are we on pace to do that? Are you doing the activities each week that it takes to do that? And then how does that funnel into what our goal for the month is, our goal for the quarter is, and then our goal for the year, right? All of that lines up, and it feeds a bigger purpose, right? We have this audacious, $1 million month goal, but if we focus on the things that consistently are going to allow us to hit our marks, we eventually get there, right? Because it's just not, the 4 of us. It becomes, we bring another person on, another couple people on who are contributing to us hitting that goal, that purpose. Right.
And, another point is when you have these goals and you have this purpose, you have to maintain a positive attitude. You have to maintain a positive attitude, because along the way, doubt will settle in, and this is where, like, man, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right space? Is
that even possible?
Is this possible? Is there something better? Like, well, there's a lot of questions, and doubt starts to creep in. But when you have this plan and you know, like, if am I doing the things? If the answer is yes, okay, you're getting close. If the answer is no, well, let's get back to work and focus on the things that need to get us there. And you have to have a good attitude about it. Because when you hold yourself accountable, instead of making excuses and saying, well, it's this, it's that, it's the market, it's no one's buying, or there's just all these different excuses that can come up. Well, then it's like, well, hold on, well, how about let me think about what I'm doing. Am I relying on excuses and leaning on excuses why I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for, or am I actually doing the work? And if I am I doing enough of it? How much more do I have to do? All right, let's push the limit. Let's push the envelope, because I know it's possible. And then as you work towards it and you start hitting those targets, hitting those metrics, and then, oh, boom, there's one. Yep. There's another one. And, it's been amazing to see how we've been able to adapt to the environment and the dynamic of our team to a point to where we've actually accelerated our growth with less people.
Yeah.
And now, because now we're in alignment. Now we're all seeing the common vision. We're all moving in the right direction. We have the same values. We're putting in the right work. We're focusing
that
on
same energy is focused.
Exactly, and so that continues to move the needle and moves us closer to doing what we set out to accomplish.
And again, we had to step back and say, okay, well, what is our purpose again for the business? We want a God-centered business that allows agents to make a difference in their lives, that allows, sellers to have good solutions. And so we start focusing more on those things, right? Instead of like, now we're just grabbing to grow. We're just grabbing to grow.
Anything and everything,
right? And it takes us away from the vision.
Yeah.
That when you step back and you clear the path and you look, let me just get clarity, because we've already established what our North Star is. We've already established what our definite purpose is for the business. We can step back and we can say, okay, well, now I see. I see why we were kind of going in circles and not hitting our marks, is because we weren't in alignment, right? We didn't have that focused. We had the clarity of what it was, but we lost sight.
And that's important to understand, because part of having a major purpose is to also have your mastermind alliance with you. And in a true mastermind alliance, everyone shares a common vision, right? And everybody's really working to do those things, right? So when you come back together and you meet and you talk about things, and it's not like, oh, well, I said I was gonna do X and I didn't do it, and I was doing these other things that were more important. Well, you're not aligning with what we're trying to accomplish. So then you have to remove certain people, or they remove themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, you realign. Okay, do we have all the same goals? Do we have the same vision?
Yeah. Are we all paddling in the same direction?
And if the answer is yes, then cool. Then results really start to come. And it's not by more effort either. It's really by just doing the right things, where things start to, come into fruition.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's a really good example, how it worked in our business. Having that clear definition of what it is, being able to step back and say, okay, let me just realign myself. Maybe we can talk a little bit about like how we not necessarily find the purpose, but how do we continue to be resilient in it, right? There's going to be times, we talked, I think before the cameras were on, we talked about how failing is part of it. There's a lot of failing that happens on your path on purpose, for purpose. It's about how resilient you can be and how many times you're willing to get back up, because you believe so much in that vision, and your vision is so clear. The part that's not clear is how you get there, right? And so being willing to like test out new things and take a step out and say, okay, I can do this, and it's unperfect. It's not perfect, but I'm still gonna try, because I feel like if I open this door, if I push, if I hit this, wall with a hammer a little bit more, I'm gonna get somewhere.
Right. Well, the first thing is realizing that the work is gonna be ongoing for a very long time. You know, there's no single mountain that you're climbing. It's a series of mountains that you climb. So, you know, you get up one, cool, come down, go up another one. Now, what happens is that, you know, when you have a business and or wherever you're working or whatever you're doing, you know, you have to think about growth.
Yeah.
What does growth look like? Growth does not look like you doing all the work, wearing all the hats, running the entire operation. You know, that's not growth. You're a slave to your job. But what it does mean is you create systems and processes, and you create opportunities for people to fill these positions to lighten the load and help your company grow to a higher level. And that's where you start to tap into the mental strength to like, okay, who do I need to hire next? What's the next professional? And how am I training them? Am I giving them the right resources? And then you're starting to just reposition people. Now, you know, somebody fills the role that you were in, whether it's, you know, you're producing results as an acquisition specialist or a sales specialist. All right, I need somebody to do that and handle that same load. All right, cool. Now I need somebody to find the deals and handle that same load. Okay, cool. I need somebody to manage the business and handle that same load, right? So now you're starting to line the load. You get the right people in the right seats, and we have some growth. Yeah. Right? We have some growth. And then from there, you know, we talk expansion. Do we expand? How much? How high? And then as your company is thriving and making a lot of money, then how am I reinvesting this, right? Yeah. Because you have to keep the purpose in mind, because the moment we start to feel this need for, or this desire for comfort and leisure, is where things start to fall apart. So you really have to say, okay, what's the next level of work that I need to do? And how do I stay disciplined managing my financial resources so that way I continue to grow and continue to, you know, add value to what's already been established, a strong foundation. And, you know, to me, that's where, you know, it opens up the doors to new opportunities, whether it's development, building houses, building communities, you know, mixed use development, who knows? But that's, you know, you have to have, your plan should evolve. It should grow. As you hit certain milestones, it shouldn't be like, oh, I got here and I'm done. Yeah. No, it should be, I got here and now what's the next milestone? And how far in the future can I see, so that way I can keep this thing moving and growing along with my growth. So that way, you know, you never just get stuck, because a lot of times people get stuck because they get stuck in comfort. Yeah. Right. And comfort's the enemy. Like, we're allowed to experience some comfort. We're allowed to experience some rest, but some. Yeah. Not indulge.
Yeah. Not getting there and being like, okay, this is where I stop. Right. Right. And that goes back to, you know, I've done a lot of studying and learning in the space of like transformation and change. And it's just exactly what you said. It's like that moment that we get comfortable and what we need to get comfortable with is changing. Yes. What we should get comfortable with is that change is happening, right? Like, even if you're avoiding it, like, it's happening behind the scenes, and that's just how life works in general. Change is happening, right? And so being comfortable with change, it allows the purpose to evolve into something more than you had even imagined. You know, it allows something to grow into what the potential of it could be outside of what your own imagination can carry it to. And I've experienced that even recently, where it's like, okay, what is my skill set coming into the business? What is my skill set coming into, you know, helping build Level Up? And again, you said my background is communication strategy, a little bit of marketing and branding. And so, okay, well, I'm thinking of the backbone of the business. Like, who are we? Who do we connect with? Who is our actual audience? And then I think about like what's my skill set, right? And then like somewhere in between there's like a purpose hidden in there. And so I'm like, okay, well, I love coaching. I love helping women. I love helping people like synthesize some of their ideas. And I'm a really good listener, and I can listen to them talk about what their goals are. And then I'm a strategist, right? I can strategize and say, okay, this is how we build and create the steps that it will take for you to get like the things that you want, right? And so I know that's like it's a gift. And I didn't know that it was a gift before. I thought it was just like everyone knows how to do this, right?
No, not really.
But not everyone does. And so I really spent a lot of time trying to hone in on that gift. And I've done some coaching, some small business coaching, life coaching, all the things that help me understand like how people process these goals and like trying to figure out what their purpose is and how to get comfortable with change and how to move in the direction of change and growth. And so I'm like, okay, I think there's a space for that in the business, right? And so
Absolutely.
being able to work, not just with the agents, but also with you as the business owner, the visionary of this business. Like, okay, well, what is a vision? Like, now
it's accountability partner.
Yeah. Now let's like think of the practical like strategies that are going to allow you to get to that vision, right? Like you are really good about like thinking about the big goals and holding that vision. But like then there's all these other steps that come before that to like, these are the steps we have to climb to get there. And so I've just been that person for you, for our agents. I meet with them one-on-one. We talk about, not just what are my work goals, but what's kind of happening in the background, maybe at home that's like preventing me from really attacking these work goals the way I want them to. And then we work through some of that. And then, they hit their goals in a week instead of a month.
Right.
Just because there's that space and there's that clarity to talk about what is actually happening. What is my vision? Let me say it out loud. And then let me, talk with somebody to say, because I think I can get to it this way, but maybe they have another idea. And just being in that creation, right? Being in creation is, like I say, when we're closest to the ultimate creator is when we're doing and taking the actions and like trying to use our creative minds to think of solutions to achievement. That is when we feel fulfilled, and that is when we start feeling the traction to get us closer and closer to what we're trying to accomplish. So it really is that it's being able to coach in the space, and then I have this creative side of me who. I love transformation and not just people, but in spaces. And like, I love to re-envision a space and what it could be. And of course, being a mom and having a lot of kids and knowing where the space works best in a house, I feel like that's even just a gift in itself where I can go into a house and I can say, okay, well, I think this space could probably better be utilized this way. And I think it'll add value. And so I'm tapping into that. Like I don't have any like actual formal education, design background, but I have this life experience that has taught me all these things.
Functionality.
Of how a home functions. And I've done it with our own homes that we've lived in, right? And now I can like, okay, well, I work with investors. I work with contractors all the time. I work with agents, I can probably offer this service to them in a way that it adds value to the things that they're doing, makes their life easier. Again, and that is still in alignment with what our purpose is for the business, right?
A lot of people struggle with that part of it.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. But I've heard, right? It's like, we have these friends who invest in real estate and they're flipping houses and they're like, oh, it's all the little small details of the design that like, either they ignore and then they have a bad experience because the house sits there for a while, or they really take it into consideration and the house, flies because, you paid attention to those details. And it's, I'm not trying to bust a budget or anything, but it's like if you just, put a little bit of money on the back end and on the things that people can actually see that's going to sell the house, then you'll just have a lot more success. And so I'm excited for that chapter. To grow that part of it.
Yeah, because it definitely adds value, and capturing that value on the back end is there when it's all said and done. So I think another point to touch on is the greater the goal, the greater the purpose you have for your life, the more responsibility you have to be willing to assume. And this is a big piece of it because a lot of people want to avoid the responsibility. They want the rewards. They want, the financial freedom, they want all these things, but the responsibility that goes into it is what they don't want. I don't want that responsibility. I met a lot of people along the way where they just didn't want to either advance to a manager position or, run their own business because that's a lot to be responsible for. I don't want to deal with that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but as you, try to figure out what you want for your life, you got to know, okay, well, how much responsibility am I willing to take on? Because that right there is really going to determine.
That's the value right there.
Yeah. How much success you're going to have. And not only how much responsibility am I willing to take on, the other question is, do I have the discipline to handle the responsibility? Do I have the self-control to handle the responsibility? And when I talk about self-control, I'm talking about emotional control. How do you respond in the moments of anger? Or when things are falling apart, do you run, or do you want to fight somebody, or do you keep your cool? You stay calm. You try to find solutions. Like those things matter. And when you're working through, building something for the long haul, and you don't have to have it all figured out at once.
Right.
Along the way, you can start to identify. Okay, well, I may not be ready for responsibility now, but if I can start to do these things, to acquire self-discipline, to acquire certain skills that are going to help me, whether it's control my emotions or, doing the work that needs to be done, then, you're going to start to prepare yourself to assume more responsibility. So
100%. And I mean, that really resonated with me because it's, I talked about the time where I was a stay-at-home mom and I was like trying to figure out, okay, what can I actually do? But, and I try to do things that were maybe I just wasn't ready for that responsibility if I stepped out, because that would pull me away, from the home and the kids. And then if that's not functioning right, then that leads into other things not functioning right. And that just wasn't the step that I was willing to take at that time. However, there were other things that I could do that were more in line with my current self that would still prepare me. So when it was time for the responsibility,
exactly,
then I'd be prepared, right? And I'm hoping that, whoever's listening to this, if you are in a season where it's like you feel either overwhelmed or pulled into some different directions, like it's okay to just connect with who you are in the moment right now. And what are the things that you can do right now, and know that it's going to lead you and prepare you for what's in the future, right? Like don't get too far ahead of yourself. Don't overcast and just be like, okay, well, I need to take on these other responsibilities. And then it puts you into like a state of like a failure where you can't you bounce back from maybe it's a bridge that you burned, or maybe you took on another extra client and you fumbled that client, and it wasn't a good experience for either one of you, and now you've got to start from scratch, and it's harder to do that than to say, okay, well, who am I right now, and what can I handle right now that's going to help me to when I can handle a couple more clients, or when I can handle a bigger budget, right? Me, I'm starting off with these smaller budget homes, but I would love to be able to do, $1 million renovation one day. But what can I do right now?
Right.
What are the things I can do right now? How can I organize myself right now so that when it's time, I already have the steps, and I've already ironed a lot of the things out on a smaller scale, so that when it's time to grow and evolve, I've prepared myself.
Exactly, and you're no longer wishing or hoping that you become a success. No, you've prepared for your success. You've earned your success by doing all of these other steps and actually taking on these different projects, small, medium sized, big. You're going through it and you're building your portfolio. And I think that's the big thing too. But if we want to add just another point to this, and I think this is probably just as important as all of them, is it's having the right support system around you as you work towards these goals. Because for me, you've always been a positive support for me along every step of the way since the beginning. It didn't matter what season I was in, whether it was going to college, whether I was just getting started in my sales job, it was starting the business. It was like, hey, I support you. And never was there moments where you made me feel like I needed to be doing something else. So you were just like, hey, keep going till you can't, right?
Yeah.
And that right there is everything, because if you have people in your ear that are not supporting you, they're dream killers, right? And they're plan killers, and they're not gonna. It's only gonna lead to quicker failure, but it could be detrimental to bouncing back, right? But when you have somebody there to back you up, support you, when you fall down, hey, let's get back up, let's go back at it. Like that right there is where, anything's possible.
Yeah.
I think having a strong faith is key as well. You have that rooted in your relationship with God. But I think aside from that, the people that are around you and what they're feeding you, especially the person closest to you, your husband, your wife, whoever it is, that needs to be strong as well, because if it's not, then, it only leads to, just the hardships of what you're going to be enduring anyways, right?
No doubt. I think, that, like you said, mentors, supportive community, being able to, don't be afraid to reach out to people who are already doing what you're doing. Maybe they've experienced success or failure, but there's something that they can teach you in those moments. Attend events, network with people who are already on that path, who already have some experience, and they really only have to be one step ahead of you. We don't have to find the professional who's already on TV and doing all these flip my house, whatever. Right. I can find somebody in my community who's maybe flipped a couple more houses than me, or who are maybe doing designs in the neighborhoods that I aspire to design in. But it really is just surrounding yourself with people that have experience, people that have stories. And that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast too, is to share stories.
Right.
We bring people on here so they can share the highs and the lows and the valleys and what they learned, so that we might still have to go through it too, but at least you are hearing from somebody who has experienced, who has a testimony to share of how they overcame a certain roadblock to get to where they are, and learning that no one just arrives, right? No one just becomes a broker of $1 million, multi-million-dollar company. There's a lot of backstory.
There's a lot of struggle that goes into
into that, right? And so when you have that vision and have that goal, understand and being able to hear other stories of okay, it took some time and it took some bruises and bumps to get there, but because I've surrounded myself with a community of people who support me and who I can bounce ideas off and not feel shameful or feel dumb, but they're going to actually encourage me, and maybe they can give me a pointer or a tip or two here and there. It's going to allow me to kind of hold on to that vision and find clarity around that vision and really have strong purpose behind what wakes you up every day and what keeps you going every day.
Right. I think that purpose that you're talking about is it removes any fear of speaking with somebody and looking at them as a competitor as opposed to an ally. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people get caught up in the comparison, right, and the competition. Well, this person's doing better than me. I just want to beat them, right? Mm-hmm. And why would I go over there to try to learn from them? At the end of the day, people that are successful, they're not really, feeling like they have to compete with, somebody has to lose for them to win.
Right.
They just go do the best work that they can do, and they just become winners.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've all got our own sauce. There's going to be people who are attracted to it, and there's people who aren't, and there's just somebody else for them,
Exactly.
But like you said, you go in it with, how can I be the best in this space, and how can I serve the best to the people who who are attracted to what I have to offer, then that's what I'm going to do. Wouldn't do it with excellence. Are we almost out of time? Are we supposed to be wrapping up here?
Yeah. Go ahead and take us to the finish line.
Okay, let's see. So to wrap up, we talked about the foundations of building purpose, being able to take action, being able to be resilient, how every achievement starts with having just a purpose, and it's not going to be a perfect, clear, save the earth statement, but knowing that the action that you take provides clarity and builds the discovery of what that purpose is. Being able to identify what drives you each day, what's gonna keep you going, and having that clarity around something that's going to continue to motivate you, and then having the people around you who are going to help lift you up and speak positively into what your purpose and fulfillment is. Those are kind of all the topics that went into the definiteness of purpose. Again, we're having this conversation based on the Principles of Success by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, he has 2 books. It's Think Your Way to Wealth and Think and Grow Rich. But yeah.
They all talk about, the 17 principles and how we can apply them in our own ways. And so we hope that you were able to pull a few nuggets from there. Again, if you continue to ask yourself on a daily basis, what is it that what is it that I want to be known for? What is it that's going to help me add value to the spaces and the places that I'm in? You're going to get closer to finding that answer for you. Anything else?
No, I mean, right on. And I think, lastly, just being able to find, what it is that you want to do, and just ask yourself the question, just, hey, what is my purpose? And just meditate on it.
Mm-hmm.
And start to learn more about your skills. Start to learn more about what drives you, not to where you feel like it's work, but where you jump out of bed to go and do it. I think that's the main thing.
Amen to that. And don't forget, share this episode with anyone who might benefit from it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe if you want to, drop in the chat box below what your purpose is, what you've, any nuggets that you pulled from this episode. And then follow us on social media. Follow us on like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We got more content coming to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for joining us. Catch you on the next one. Peace. All right, that was good. How do you feel about that? Yeah. Ooh. All right. 12:15. An hour.
An hour.
Let's see.